Hey guys, Tarke here, and I wanted to quickly show off my current Magma Orb character in action. Since I'm at the point of the build where I need to just farm out a couple of levels to equip my +2 Helm Enchant Torpedoes, and this build is serious eye cancer, I thought, why not share the fun? So currently I am using a Sire of Shards Magma Orb setup. I'm sort of crit, I'm like 40-50-ish% crit chance. So it's kind of Dan's game, but is sort of enough. And I'm just filling in life nodes at Scion, which I will then later respec into traveling over to Shadow Star. Now, the reason why the Helm Enchant is so important is the Helm Enchant will give me 2 additional bounces, which, as you can see, the way that the Magma Orb works is you just kind of like attack, and it sort of cascades out slowly. So any additional bounces you get is a fairly substantial clear speed increase and also single target increase, because the way that Magma Orb works is it doesn't AoE overlap in the sense of fireball. So with fireball, for example, if you shoot out 3 fireballs, they will all overlap on top of each other. With this, the way that the overlap works is it's with each bounce. So for single target, you ideally want to be running something like slower projectiles, which reduces the spacing between the bounces, and then you just like get a mob pinned in somewhere and you just like chain 5 bounces right into it. So it's a pretty big boost in that terms, just raw single target, and then again for just AoE. Another thing I do want to set up for this character for single target is probably a +2/+3 staff weapon swap, linked in with like slur proj, conk effect, and just all the single targety kind of things. In terms of like the skill tree, I made a video which was called the Magma Orb Build Diary 1, which I recommend checking out if you want to kind of see like what my thought process was. The only thing I've changed about the character is I'm now running both Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. I spent the remaining of my points picking up a couple more boxes, and I got a second Gore Herald, and the Gore Heralds just look really cool together, and I was like, fuck it, let's just go DOS dual Heralds. And also, it means that I can then drop my Orb of Storms, Power Charge, blah 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 setup, because nearly every single boss has some kind of ads next to it, so the bosses for mapping will still get cursed by my Assassin's Mark via the Herald of Thunder. And it just makes the Assassin's Mark uptime a bit cleaner. And again, it's dual Herald, curse on my Assassin's Mark with a proj weakness on Blasphemy. For anyone wondering why proj weakness over flammability, which are those like your 2 offensive options, then for defensive options, obviously stuff like Enfeeble, Temp Chains, etc, etc. The reason being is it's actually a pretty substantial DPS increase, a larger DPS increase than flammability against most mobs, and also it has a pseudo layer of defense to it, in the fact that it has got the chance to knock back. So that not only gives you a little bit of defense, it also gives you more damage, because it can push mobs from one bounce into another. You know how I said earlier the way that overlap works is by monsters getting hit by multiple bounces? If one mob got hit by the first bounce, it can then get knocked back a little bit, which might be all that's needed to then get hit by subsequent bounces. So it's kind of like a raw DPS increase through the proj scaling, and it also can lead to more overlap, which is a fairly substantial increase. So yeah. Otherwise though, the build's pretty satisfying to play. At the same time though, it does also give you headaches in the fact that there's a lot going on. So a lot of people, when I was playing this on stream yesterday, were complaining about the sound effects. It's only going to get worse because my character's going to get more and more bounces. So it's going to get 2 additional bounces, which equals 2 additional sound effects, times by 7, because I think I have 7 projectiles. So that's 14 extra. And then there's the fact that I'm eventually going to be going for like a Dying Sun, which adds extra proj and all this other things. And then there's a few other ways that you can get a few additional bounces. So yeah, however, when the Heralds start proccing, it does just look so fucking glorious that you kind of just gotta like, oh well. Like, it's extreme eye cancer, but it's really glorious at the same time. And once the crit's more reliable and it's all just like proper bouncing off, as it were, I think this actually be a pretty satisfying build to play. And also, I think it's going to be a really fun mapping character. I've had a lot of fun just doing stuff like this. I've always enjoyed Nova-style gameplays. And with the fact that this build has, at the same time, no aiming and lots of aiming. So, again, going back to the whole AoE overlap aspect of Magma Orb, when it gets into raw single target, there is actually a little bit of a thought process in making sure that you're hitting the mob correctly. You kind of want to aim just in front of the mob so it gets hit by multiple bounces. This becomes less necessary the more AoE and the more like bounces and the slow approach and stuff you have. Currently I don't have slow approach links, I'm just on a 4 link, so it's kind of whatever. But there's a little bit of management there, but at the same time you can just hold down right click and not have to think that much. So it's kind of, it's quite a nice little balance. Like people who enjoyed playing tornado shot, some people really like the fact you have to aim tornado shot to get maximum damage. And other times you don't have to aim at all if you're doing the whole like fork chain bullshit. It's a similar kind of thing, and I personally quite like it. And it just feels like a fireworks build. So yeah. And the thing which is actually also really exciting, so in half a level we're going to get the +2 bounces. I'm also really not that far off getting a Dying Sun either. I could actually liquidate a bunch of my currency, straight up buy a Dying Sun. Because of the like Minotaurs and Guardians in general, I don't know why I said Minotaur, but because of Guardians being really cheap, because how easy it is to upgrade your Atlas, and people generally pushing further into their Atlas with the density changes, Guardian and Shaper items are a lot cheaper. And with all the nerfs that have been happening to like certain builds, less people are playing Dying Sun style builds. So they're only like 200-ish C. I currently have, I think, 6 or 7 Exalts raw. And I have, I think, 50, 60-ish Chaos. Now, I would like to convert a bunch of that into fusings to then try and link up my Sire of Shards. There aren't currently any good Sire of Shards for sale, which are pre-linked. There's like one and it's ridiculously overpriced, so fuck that. So I do want to try and link that myself, and I do want to like save up for a Combs. But considering the prices and speech is difficult, considering the current price of Dying Sun and how much of a quality of life improvement it would be, I might kind of like shell out and just pick that up first. So that's pretty exciting because it's one of those things that I've wanted to mess around with Dying Sun, but never really be able to justify it in a build because it was kind of like, the main times I've wanted it have been in barrage builds, and you only really need it in barrage builds if you're like doing crazy bossing. Whereas this is just no, you just map a lot smoother and the build just feels better. You don't really need it for single target because it doesn't actually do anything for single target. All it does is just make it a nicer mapper, and it's like the cheapest the flask has ever been, so that's like pretty fucking glorious. So, yes. One thing which is a slight like hindrance of this build, and it's like the one weak point about it, is you don't get Val packs until mid to low 80s when you do your Uber Lab and you do just realizing I actually had me flask up that. When you do your Uber Lab and you get your Super Leech. Currently this is just with normal lab done. I haven't got my 40% more damage yet, so if the damage seems a little bit low. This is with like wanky crit, only 4 links, and I haven't got my 40% more damage, so the damage will be fine. A lot of people have done stuff like this. There's a guy who's been showing off Reddit recently with a Mines version of a very similar build. Wins did a Magma Orb character last week. A lot of people were like playing around with this. I think Noogie's done this kind of build before as well. In the last few leagues, that was kind of back in the whole like CI meta. Actually, was Noogie's character life? I can't remember. Anyway, my point being is it's actually a fairly tried and tested build, even though it does just come across as this massive kind of like meme. And it's just, with the current state of Val pack, you just slam it on Berserker and seems good, seems good. Since we are pretty close to 67, I'm just going to keep going until I can equip my Devotos, and then just show it off with a few extra bounces. But, yes. As for, like, what I've been up to, for the people who are interested in the person behind the memes, I've just been chilling. I have got a infusion coming up at the hospital on Monday. I was actually meant to have it today, but for some reason the appointments office messed up and my appointment wasn't properly booked. So, yes. No biggie, it's just every 8 weeks I have an infliximab infusion. It messes with my immune system because I have Crohn's disease. Look it up if you're interested. Bloody-da. Routine procedure. But I always feel kind of ill before, and since it's now going to be delayed if I seem a bit low energy either on stream or on YouTube. That's just why, so you know. But other than that, I've generally just been... Sorry, I just fucking love this build. It's so good. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Other than that, I've just basically been chilling. So what else? What are the other like limiting things? So how to level this? If anyone wondering like, oh, can you level as this all the way? So I leveled as Sunder, and then I transitioned to Magma Orbs really early because people on the stream were complaining, mate, nice fucking Magma Orb build, looks like Sunder. So I transitioned at like 30 something, although I personally wouldn't recommend transitioning to Magma Orbs until you have at least both of your threshold jewels. The threshold jewel gives you an additional projectile and increased AoE with each subsequent bounce. And again, that's why it's so important to stack increased bounces, because the more bounces, the more AoE, the easier it is to overlap, etc, etc, etc. And it just makes your life a whole lot smoother, and it makes the retina burning action a whole lot better. Oh, also, I'm currently doing a promotion. I think I might need a new pair of sunglasses to actually play this build long term on stream. So if anyone would like to buy me a pair of Ray-Bans, feel free. I joked on stream yesterday that if someone bought me a pair of Ray-Bans, they could be a guest on Bay Class, and Yoji said careful with that. So, yeah. I don't know. Come on. Level up, level up. Okay. Let's equip the Stivettos real quick, and then just do one new lap with the extra bouncy bouncy. Does this mess up my resists? No. Okay, we're chilling. And I think that also means that I can then equip my new gloves. I've been sat on a bunch of gear that I've wanted to be swapping around for ages. Okay, let's just quickly do this. And then do that. Equip these new gloves there. Oh, my stat requirements work. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And here just what's meant to be there. That's meant to be my curse on hit setup. Yeah, I recolored this because obviously when I'm running the combs, I won't have a chest piece there. That makes sense. That will be an arcane surge. That would be a decoy totem. Yeah, see, look at me. I'm a professional. I've pre-planned my links. Okay, let's see what this looks like with the extra bouncy, 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 bouncy. So the reason why I am using Individuos is it was the only decent helm for sale at the time, which had the +2 chain, which is the extra bounce enchant, and also it's a pretty good fit for the build since it is a staff build. Having the movement speed helps, having the extra dex solves all your problems. With early leveling, you do struggle with dex requirements a little bit. By the time you've transitioned over to Shadow, it's no issue at all. It's like a 170 dex build with something like 300 in, 300 strength baseline. You can very easily turn this into an Iron Will build, and I think that's what I'm going to try and do. If I can get good enough resist everywhere, I do want to try and run the Repentance gloves, and I've just been like stockpiling strength stacked gear really hard. And on that note, if anyone's currently playing in hardcore and you have any like super sexy high life stack strength resist gear, hit me up. I'll probably buy that off you. But yes, yes, yes. Not really the best place to demonstrate the extra bounces since it is a closed off area. But if you can imagine what this is like once you have all the extra AoE, once you have faster proj linked in, just feels good, man. So with the whole slower proj, faster proj setup, my original plan is to use faster proj for mapping, swap in slower proj for single target. But I was thinking I might actually try running Ice Bite instead of faster proj, since I'm now running the double Herald setup. I'm not fitting Ice Bite on my Herald. I tried leveling with that, and it didn't seem consistent enough. And the extra damage you get from frenzies makes it well worth linking into your main setup if that's the only way you're going to get frenzies. I know you can use the Green Dream Jewel, but they're fairly expensive. And I haven't actually got a good place on the skill tree to equip one, since the places where it would be a nice fit, I need to fit in my inevitability jewels. So it's a case of I'd have to spend like 3 to 4 points traveling to get it, and then drop a bunch of extra currency. So it's a little bit iffy, but yeah, basically feels bouncy, 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 man. expect a more like rounded character updatey guide thing when I get it in maps. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.